Hi, and thanks for joining. My name's KIYA, and I'm part of the communications team at Houzz UK. Today, I'm going to be speaking about communications in times of crisis. I think this year has been a challenging one, so I wanted to bring together some professionals from our community to share their experience, things that have worked for them, and what they might do differently. I'm going to be speaking to OMAR BHATTI from Space Shack, Sarah Slade of Sarah Slade Limited, and Amy DHALA of DECORBUDDI. Great, so thanks for joining us. I'm just going to jump into it. So we're going to be speaking today about communication in times of crisis. I think we can all agree that this year has been a different one, to put it politely, and I'm sure everyone has had different ways of coping and has found it challenging. So I really wanted to bring together some professionals from Houzz who've been through this year and can just shed some light on what they did, what worked for them, things that they've learned from, and what they're going to be putting in place as we move into a second lockdown, which I'm sure everyone is very happy about. So to kick us off, I'm just going to start because I think everyone's probably had a bit of a different experience with this, but I'd love, Omar, if you could just start by telling us a little bit about how your clients reacted to the lockdown news.
I think originally the clients that come to my mind are the Bloomsbury clients that I worked with. They were very, very easy to work with. And during the lockdown, I think they just got the keys, I think a week before lockdown. So they had an empty flat. They were living out of cardboard boxes. We had just signed the project. So it was a bit of a chaotic period. But I think they were quite good because you have to be quite open with each other and explain to them that everything's going to be okay. But everything's on the news as well, so kind of planning out at the same time. But I think the whole process was quite good. We only just finished the project recently and completed. So we had the whole design process during the first lockdown. As soon as we were allowed to go out, then the contractors went straight to site. So far, so good.
So in terms of timing,
Yeah.
probably as well as it could have gone.
I think the timing kind of worked perfectly because they were home as well. They had a lot more time to kind of interact because usually they both have busy jobs. So I think schedules would have been a bit of an issue. But because of lockdown, it kind of worked in my favor because they were a lot more responsive. We had a lot more in-depth conversations through FaceTime, Zoom, phone calls. And I think the design process was a lot more enjoyable this time.
Well, that sounds like it was a very positive experience, and that was a client that kind of took you through the whole of the last few months. Amy, how was the experience for you? How were your clients kind of reacting to that news right back at the beginning?
So I think, as with everybody at the beginning, there's a sort of vague sense of panic on everyone's side. We did a lot of home office help. We did a lot of helping people actually work out where to work from, the best ergonomics and light, and how to sort of maintain a sort of healthy environment while they were stuck at home. So that was great. We were able to bring that in. But yeah, generally, obviously there were quite a few issues with some elements of the design process, but generally I think everybody was very accepting that and understanding that we all had to adapt, and it was kind of like being in a war, wasn't it? Everyone sort of just got on with it and mucked in and understood and did their best. So yeah, generally we had a very positive experience.
Great. And Sarah, for you as a business, how did you react? Because it's something that no one could have predicted.
Well, I think it was a bit of sheer panic. Most people have been really understanding. They've understood what's been going on with health of the nation, and they don't want to get ill either. I think they also were worried about whether their projects would ever get done, how long the lockdown was going on for. So reassurance from us, even though we were all working remotely, was the key, making sure everybody felt calm and safe and everything was still going through. It's just taking a little bit longer than normal. And I have to say, the trades, quite a few were furloughed, but many of them did as much as they could during the period to try and ease it a little bit for our clients, so that they, at least they could see some progress being made.
Absolutely. And I think what Amy mentioned about that kind of wartime spirit and everyone pitching in and trying to get through it as best as as best as possible is so true. And it's definitely something that I've heard time and time again from speaking to professionals, that on the whole, homeowners were actually very understanding of what was happening, although maybe slightly panicked, potentially talking to you more than they would normally have been. I don't know if any of you found that that did increase the amount of communication with your clients.
Communication with them a lot. So there was, I was working with, I think, 4 clients at the same time. And because they were all working from home, and they're always, when I mean busy, they're always flying around, so they're busy, so that you can't always get through to them. So this was more of a time for them to enjoy the process, which is actually really interesting, because for people who are busy traveling around and they can just leave the project to you to a certain extent, now they can really be involved in it, and then they're in the space. So they're really understanding and taking your documents and looking at everything properly, spending all that time, which makes the biggest difference, I think. So they'll be able to enjoy it and really kind of get involved with the project, which is kind of nice, I think.
I think, again, Omar has touched on that biggest point, that they have a lot more time to be responding to your messages. We've had such it's been actually a really positive experience for me and my clients, because our communication is, I would say we've really gone 100% over what we did before. Not that we thought we were doing a bad job, but I think we definitely are doing way more to make sure that there's much more clarity and transparency for our clients, which is actually, that's what clients want. Even if, for example, you said, some people were waiting, one of my clients was waiting something like 8 months for a side table to turn up. I mean, it's just a small side table. And I had to keep saying, look, it's coming, it's now in Croatia, and it's on a lorry, it's just going through customs, and we're keeping them informed. And it actually became kind of, it was kind of a nice thing to laugh about, because obviously the client really didn't need that side table right away. But I think my relationships with my clients is so much better because of it. And you're just like, you're emailing, calling, zooming. Zooming is something that I never did before. So this is all positive for me, I think.
I wanted to actually ask this: how has it changed your communications? You touch on that virtual aspect, which, as you said, is new to you. I assume for the most part, for most of you, you would be meeting in person previously. How has that changed, and do you think that that will be something that you continue with going forward?
I think it's just much more acceptable. I think people were maybe a bit afraid of technology before, and they thought that you wouldn't get the same value or conversations through it. But actually, as we've all adapted, I think everybody understands now that things like travel time and those elements, sometimes it's more efficient and you can get more done by doing a quick video call with someone. And I think that will definitely, going forward, of course we'll always see our clients in person and see properties, etc. But I think for those smaller meetings, I think a lot of people will want to do more by video call. I think it's just become much more acceptable, and no one's terrified of it anymore, whereas at the beginning I think most of us were. So yeah, I think that's a big change for us.
I love meeting people face to face, and actually it's their chance to work out whether they really enjoy working with you, and that's the start of the process. But I have to say, I mean, I'm with you with the video. I mean, they were going around their room so quickly with the video, and I'm like, whoa, stop, what was that? So you're keeping that, I've now started to ask people to send me as many pictures as they can of their room before we start the Zoom call, so I can kind of absorb it a little bit more before that. And then if I need any more pictures, and I've now just recently started to get people to fill out a questionnaire, which I didn't do before. And actually I think this is something I'd carry on doing now. And it's quite an in-depth questionnaire, but it means that when I do the Zoom call, I can do it in a smaller time rather than it being hours and hours. And we can go through all the things that I need to ask them. And I've actually found that a real benefit. So again, it's something, all these things are positives that I'm taking out. But I do still, after that meeting on Zoom, I still try and get to go out after that, once we've got a little bit more of an understanding of that they want to work with me, and moving forward.
You mentioned the questionnaire, so I think that's actually a really interesting tool that you use. And I'm not expecting you to give us away all of your secrets, but it'd be great to know just some of those questions that you ask right at that beginning stage with a new client.
Well, basically, I mean, I actually, I did a bit of research sort of because I was trying to find out what other interior designers were doing. And it's not very often that interior designers all come together and share what they're doing, because we're all a little, sometimes a bit territorial. But I looked at other people's and contacted some designers that I know and sort of have known for years. And so it's just sort of like the average question that I would normally ask on a phone call, or if I was meeting them in person. So for example, simple things like, which room are you doing? Is it a bedroom? Is it a lounge? Is it a dining room? What are you expecting the room to do for you? So even if it's a dining room, are you still wanting to work there? And it's really quite simple questions, trying to ascertain what they need from me, trying to get the questionnaire down. But I actually think more information when you're dealing with people remotely is key. And also things like budget, because actually now we're offering them a bit more of a remote service, working out what's the budget they want to go for, because actually some people are just wanting us to just put together a design and a shopping list now, and they do it themselves because they necessarily don't want somebody in their home, whereas we're used to normally doing full turnkey projects. So it's actually, and we're just adapting all the way.
I think it's so interesting what you said about having to adapt and be flexible. And like you said, you're used to doing those turnkey projects, but actually just offering something that will help people now, differentiating what you offer. And I know that's something that you, Amy, have always offered, those smaller bite-sized packages, but you've seen that that's something that's grown this year, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do bespoke larger projects as well, but our packages have been great. I mean, we've been really lucky that we already had that set up. So, as we have all been staring at our walls, someone might just want one room doing, or a certain element of their home doing, rather than a big project. And they're easier to do in these times because, firstly, they're getting they know what their costings are because it's a fixed price. And secondly, it's a finite number of things that need to be designed and done. So yeah, we found that really good. And we've also done, a home office help package now as well, which can be delivered remotely. So for all the people, particularly during the first lockdown when everyone with kids had them at home, for all those people working at home, trying to work out how to, have that be productive, but also sort of have a healthy and happy environment. So that was really good. And lots of gardens as well. We do gardens. So obviously, during the summer, that was great. And at the moment, everybody's trying to turn their garden into some sort of beautiful chalet set up with, burners and lights and things. So that's been another very successful package for us as well. So yeah, it's been good.
And let's move on. How have you been continuing to get your name out there this year and seen by potential new clients? Sarah, if we start with you.
Well, I mean, we've been quite lucky because the first part of lockdown, we were quite quiet because it was a bit of an unusual time. And then we just became busier and busier. But I have been trying to, and it's always difficult when you're trying to, as these guys will also probably say, trying to keep your social media presence going whilst you're busy is actually quite a tough thing. But we are trying to keep our Instagram up, our house profile. We're trying to keep updated regularly, and really just, I suppose, keeping our name out there, making sure that people know that we're still working, because I think a lot of people thought our industry just stopped, but we were all still working during it. It was just the fact that some people just didn't want to have people in their homes, or those issues. But I actually started doing a marketing course, and I've still not finished it. It should have been finished by now, but it was trying to sort of work out how you're going to move forward if this carries on. And like we were saying about the remote business, that certainly has picked up for us. But I mean, yeah, it is a tricky one whilst you're busy to keep yourself motivated to post regularly, especially when we haven't seen many of our projects completely finished, because still we're waiting for things. So normally we'd be photographing things. I mean, we would have done 20 photo shoots by now and we haven't done one. So these things are quite difficult. So we're having to keep people updated with more stories about what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. I don't know about you guys, but I mean that's been a bit of a tough one for us, getting the projects photographed beautifully so people can see it.
That's exactly the problem that we've had, is the lack of new photography, really. So even though things have been finished off, we haven't been able to get in there and shoot them, which has been quite frustrating. So yeah, you have to just do what you can. Yeah.
I was actually quite lucky because I had a lot of project photos that I hadn't posted, and I had a lot of behind the scenes stuff that I hadn't posted. Like my camera phone I've got thousands and thousands from behind the scenes, and even when I'm going out and about, just trying to put a lot of content on stories. So behind the scenes from each project. We filmed the projects that I started in the beginning of lockdown. We managed to shoot them last week, 2 of them. So now we have fresh content coming up. So there's always that time. It's just timing, I think, as well. But just trying to keep everyone in the loop and just keep them interested, trying to keep the same tone of voice and not change too much from your current kind of brand or identity, I think was key. So people still recognize you.
I mean, we also did some sort of competitions for children and all sorts of other things that weren't necessarily about getting new business in, but just keeping our face out there so that we're just reaching out to people. I mean, that really did help. And I know that a lot of parents got in contact with us like, thank you so much for that colouring in competition that you gave us, and you know, all of those sort of things. Just and any new products that I could see coming out that I knew that would sort of really be good for our clients. I just kept putting those on social media. So there is always a way to keep the content there and keep yourself out there, even if you can't necessarily show particular finished products. But yeah, we are now booking a lot of shoots in, so we're fingers crossed, you know, we can get them all done before Christmas.
We did some social media on actually, we're a team of designers, so we did some social media on ourselves and working from home. So we showed all of our different workspaces and just tried to, you know, keep people interested that way. So sort of inviting them into our homes and showing them that we too were having to work on a kitchen table or wherever it is, and just sort of keeping the relationships up like that, which was nice.
I think that was something I was going to ask about actually, is that personality. How did you have to, if you did change your tone or try to proactively think about how you were portraying yourselves during a time which was a bit difficult? I know, Omar, that you touched on keeping your tone actively the same. Was that a decision that you really thought about?
I really did think about that. I spoke to quite a few other interior designers. Some were going the other way and they were trying to tone things down and they didn't want to put anything out there. But I just thought it was important to just stay the same, because otherwise everyone who's following you on Instagram or social media, they're not potential clients, all of them. Some of them are actually follow you for your work and they enjoy wanting to see your updates. So I thought I want to kind of share that whole experience, my day to day. Obviously, I'm not out and about going to sites or going to shops, etc., or meetings. But what am I doing at home? Like the design process, I was showing that a bit more as well. So showing more of my screen time, exactly what I'm getting up to, behind the scenes of actual design work. So that was a side that I was never able to show before because I was always running around, out and about. So it's quite interesting for them to see the kind of the real behind the scenes of actual kind of project planning, if you want to call it that.
Absolutely. And I remember seeing Amy's project photos on Houzz of them all sitting there in their different workspaces, and it inspired a post that I did on Houzz as well. And how, if there has Houzz kind of played a part in that communication with your clients this year?
Using Houzz Pro with our clients, so it's been a great way just to sort of keep everything on track. Obviously it's a great way for them to see our portfolio and to understand about the range of work that we can do, and yeah, it's worked really well for us.
So for us, it's really, because we can't, during lockdown it was difficult for us to make so many client visits ourselves. Having the portfolio, the reviews, it actually really has helped us, because it means that before they've even met us, there's that reaffirmation that you know, there are other people that have used us, and you know, we're great at what we do, and the quality of work that we do. So actually that's been really important. I found that way more than I've ever done before actually with Houzz. So that's a huge positive to come out of this.
And what would you say, so I know that there's been a lot of challenges this year, but what would you say have been your biggest challenge in keeping in good communication with your clients?
Well, my biggest challenge is supplied goods.
Yeah,
everything's out of stock. If it wasn't out of stock, the supply chain across the world is yeah, it's tough, because we're getting, you know, that a lot of the products that we buy in are from not in this country. So if something's from a different country and they've had problems with lockdown or other issues, then everything's taking a lot longer. And actually what's happening is that there isn't enough communication necessarily from our accounts and stockists, because they don't know when things are coming in. So it's been difficult trying to keep that information up to date for our clients. So, you know, for example, I mentioned about one product that a client was waiting for. I mean, we were chasing it, and the UK distributor was chasing it, and nobody really had any news until it finally came into the UK. So trying to meet clients' expectations for deliveries has been a bit of a challenge. But I mean, like, you know, communication has been key, as long as we've been keeping them up to date, that they know that we're chasing and we're keeping on top of things. Yeah, that's, and it's still an issue. Most fabric companies, wallpaper companies, the stock that would have been in the UK, you know, hundreds and hundreds of meters, is no longer there. So that has been a challenge, because we can't necessarily plan the project like we used to. So, but you know, we just keep moving along and trying to make it work and being positive. That's the key.
And I don't know if that's kind of similar for you two as well.
Yeah, I think our biggest challenge has definitely been the supply chain by far. Everything else is you can sort out yourself, but when things are out of your hands, it's yeah, all you can do is smile and do your best, really.
Definitely deliveries as well, but another issue that we had was curbside deliveries.
Yeah,
that was a nightmare, because we weren't allowed to go in, or any of the contractors, so the clients were stuck with like a cupboard or
bath, yeah,
pallets or tiles or bath.
yeah.
That was a bit of a nightmare, but
yeah.
There's actually another challenge as well, which is quite a big challenge, is that the self-isolation as soon as somebody comes into any contact with anyone who's positive. So I had a project a couple of weeks ago that was due to start, and then 2 of the trades were off because they got diagnosed positive COVID. So then suddenly it has a knock-on effect, because they're the people that should have been in there first, and then the decorators were going in. So actually then what's happened is everything's moved. Everything just keeps moving. It's always this constant sliding scale of how to manage all of the people on the project. So not just the supply, it's the people.
And how have you then had to factor that into your planning of projects? Are you trying to manage clients' expectations early on that these things potentially could happen?
Most clients have been really, really patient and generous with how they're working with everybody, because they do understand, and also they don't want somebody in their house who has got coronavirus. So they're just like, okay, well, we're happy that they don't come. So then I said, well, look, we'll refigure everything out, so when they do get back, it just means the project moves on a little bit longer than it should do. So you know, the getting projects over the line has been taking longer than normal, just because of that.
I think they're all happy. All the clients that I've worked with, they're honestly really, really happy, because they understand the situation, and the fact that it's not in anyone's hands. And usually, if you've previously worked with them as well, they'll know like kind of your expectations, that you don't usually work with delays. But they've been very understanding, and it's kind of happening everywhere in the world. So I think it's really nice, and we feel good about that as well, the fact that you have that support from the client.
And what would you say have been your biggest learnings this year?
To have patience. Definitely have patience, and everything will work out. If you've got understanding clients and understanding families and friends as well, which I think is really important. It's just key to have that kind of support system, and patience to get through it all. And it's just going to take some time.
Yeah, and to be adaptable. You know, you can't always do things in the way that you normally do them. Sometimes you've got to think outside the box and be a bit flexible.
I mean, I just think, for me, I've learned so much about communication, way more than I've ever done before, and flexibility, and, like you said, patience. They're the 3 things, and I've been, yeah, I've realised how blessed I am with all the wonderful clients. They've been so really quite amazing during all of this. And that makes my job even better, because sometimes we work late nights. Well, when I say sometimes, every night's a late night, and there are long hours that we all do to make sure that everyone's homes are beautiful. And so it does really makes a huge difference.
And lastly, obviously we are 2 days in to lockdown number 2. Is there anything that you're going to be doing differently this time that you learned from last, or things that you think that could have been improved on?
We're working, I think we're working as a team really, really well. So before the last lockdown, we used to sort of get together once every month or two because we're spread around the country. And since this has all happened, we now have a weekly sort of Zoom meeting on a Monday morning, all of us together. And it's been really good because we've been able to learn from each other. People have been sharing their projects. We've had suppliers come in and present to us. And I think that going forward is something that we will continue to do during this next lockdown and beyond, just because it's been a huge improvement for us and a great change and a really great way to sort of bond as a team.
I think from what we've learned from the first lockdown as well is to just get together as a team, and like you said, kind of have regular catch-ups, etc., even with clients, be as transparent as possible. And I think personally I feel a lot more confident in this second lockdown. Just from everything that I've learned, even through these kind of experiences, talking to other interior designers or people throughout this whole period, I just feel kind of just a lot more relaxed in a way, because I know the kind of how it's been before, and we went through the worst part of it, and now it can kind of only get better.
Yeah, and you're not so worried about how your clients are going to react to that as well, because you know that everybody's in the same boat and everybody's learned to adapt, and it's much more flexible in that respect. So
I think that's really important, the kind of being able to adapt and kind of being understanding as well. That's key.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really worried about this lockdown for some reason, because I think everybody now knows what to do. The trades know what to do. My team knows what to do. We're talking on Zoom all of the time. I mean, I've never had so many WhatsApp messages from my team. I mean, it's constant. But we're actually, we're doing all sorts of things that we wouldn't have done before. I'm really confident about the next few months, and I think the industry is actually, I think it's thriving. I think everybody is, from what I can understand, really busy. And if we just keep it going, I think that's the best thing we could ever do. And the clients are happy. So yeah, it's all good. I think it's good news for the next, at least the next few months.
Yeah, I agree. We feel very positive about the next few months as well. We've been busy, and people are using this time to look at their houses and their homes and make improvements and do those things that they've been meaning to do for ages, and big projects are continuing and house sales are continuing. So yeah, I think we feel the same, onwards and upwards.
Definitely. I mean, I'm quite happy because a lot of people are moving out of London because they want big gardens, and I'm based in Cambridge, so this is brilliant. I'm like, come.
We're doing a lot of garden rooms in London, and that's the thing. I think definitely people are definitely looking at ways to sort of that they can permanently work from home, or semi-permanently work from home. So there's definitely a lot of that going on, sort of layout and space planning and adapting.
Well, I think that's a very positive point to end on, and it's something that I can only echo as well. We've definitely seen on Houzz huge increases in the volume of leads coming through as people are wanting to make improvements to their home, figuring out ways that they can make it work better, and planning on spending more time there for the foreseeable. So I think it has actually been, I think this industry has shown such robustness, and it's, like you can all have said, it's something that you can all be quite positive going forward. So I'm going to leave that there, but thank you all for joining me. I think it was some really interesting insights, and like you said, it's not that often that interior designers come together and discuss and share what they do and how they do it. So I think it'll be really valuable for everyone tuning in. So thank you very much, and we'll see you all again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, I hope that session was interesting and insightful for all of you that tuned in. If you do have any other questions about Houzz or Houzz Pro, just head to the website, or you can contact us on UK Pro Community at houzz.com. Thank you. Bye.